All right. Hey again, friends and strangers. Just turning the camera on one more time. More cardboard nerdery uh, in store for us here. Another Dead CCG opening. This one that I'm pretty excited about. Rage, the Werewolf the Apocalypse trading card game, unlimited edition. Um, Now this is one that I'm gonna ramble a little bit here before I crack into it. Um, just because these things are about history, and just to give you folks a little bit of, well, my awareness of the history here around this game at any rate. So Rage, um, it's a game at the time from White Wolf Studios, from the World of Darkness. I think any of you who have stumbled into this probably have an idea of what the World of Darkness is, but this is 90s, so it is ancient history. So for those that don't know, World of Darkness is a property from the 90s. It was a setting for generally for role playing games, a mature role playing games, and back in the 90s, I mean, this property really, I don't know if knocked off D&D for the top spot would be the right way to put it, but in short, that is what happened for a while. Just World of Darkness kind of took over principally their vampire line of role-playing books, Vampire the Masquerade. And then along with that came a werewolf sort of role-playing manual and setting, all in the same world, like a cinematic universe, all connected. And that was Werewolf the Apocalypse. And so when Magic came along, which was the other kind of a big blow to D&D supremacy at the time, or popularity, they didn't hesitate to jump into the collectible card game world with these properties. So they actually had a vampire one called, originally called Jihad, now called Vampire the Masquerade, Vampire the Eternal Struggle. And that game's actually, to some extent, still alive. I'm part of a lot of forums where people are still trading cards, and a new edition was recently printed of the card game. I'm not sure that it's still collectible. It hovers somewhere between the collectible and living card game sort of worlds. But then this was made. And the Vampire game was by Richard Garfield, the same guy who made Magic, and might have been the second ever CCG. So in other words, after that Magic money started coming in, their next thought was to make a game in the World of Darkness. So that maybe gives you a sense of the scale of things, of how popular it was. There's a great documentary on Amazon you folks can look up about the World of Darkness and the whole publishing history there. But I'm a huge mark for those vampire games. I bought into... there's a revival in the last few years that occurred of the role-playing system. And it hasn't fared too well. The times are not great for the type of stories that are meant to be told with that system. But it's the times are probably actually perfect for a resurgence of werewolf. The themes, it's kind of imagine like hippie or environmentalist really, supernatural creatures, and I think that in broad strokes is kind of the background of Rage, and so this is why it might work today, where those vampires did it. Anyway, there's my rambling. I'll put a timestamp for those that just want to get to the pack openings. Unlimited edition, 12 cards per pack. These were $2 back in the day. I had some starters back in the day and maybe some boosters. I had a friend who was really very much into this. He had a box opened by Rudy of Alpha Investments, the Magic channel, and I'll link to that here as well. But there aren't very many other box openings, so hopefully I'm adding, and we'll get going right now. And let's see here. Again, like with many of these old card openings, I have no idea of where things may lie. So after cracking this first pack, I may stop the video here, keep these in order to see if I can look online and kind of piece out where the uncommons and commons lay. But I believe we'll see always the first card or first couple cards be an actual werewolf. So you see both forms. Now in this mythology of werewolves, some werewolves were humans who turned into werewolves. Some werewolves were wolves who had the ability to turn into werewolves. The werewolf being kind of that intermediary form. Here you see another character. And then some of them had this kind of other deformed, I guess, base form which I believe came from two werewolves mating. Now look at the oh so glorious art in this freaking game. This in the 90s in general, I think there was not a fear of being quite mature with gaming products, and so you'll see a fair bit of, you know, essentially gore and sexual innuendo, but yeah, pretty astonishing production on this game. All right, guys. Well, as best as I can piece together, all three of these are rare. I kind of stopped looking there to see if what else might be common or uncommon, but yeah, as I was saying, man, and the cards also, they were of a different kind of tougher stock than I was used to. I don't know how well these would actually shuffle and play. I mean, they'll be sleeved up obviously before I truly play with them, but this was a step up in production. Again, telling you something about the kind of resources they were willing to put behind a World of Darkness, Werewolf the Apocalypse game. I believe the printer on this was Ultra Pro, or was it Upper Deck? I'll check in a second, guys. I believe if it was Upper Deck, again, that was a well-established company at the time. Yep, Upper Deck company in the baseball world. They're already kind of known for a more premier product. At least that's my recollection as a boy. I wasn't much of a baseball card collector, but the Upper Deck cards were always pricier, nicer, had some sort of hologram action going on. No Eerie ni Donal. Look at this. This is very beautiful. This is by Ken Meyer Jr. These names on the artists, many of them, they were around for Magic as well. In particular, look at this guy, Braun McFeon. Sorry guys, a little trouble with the focus here. Braun McFeon, there's his werewolf form. Scouting mission. Kinfolk Soldier of Fortune. The setting is basically the modern world at the time, the 90s. But you know, games back then were already having kind of cyberpunk. You know, computer hacking technology was a big part of the setting. Evil corporations, obviously supernatural beings besides werewolves and vampires. And you know, again, all this stuff, particularly the vampire game, but all of this stuff was pretty influential on a lot of the fiction that would come after the fact, involving supernatural worlds, beings of this type. Love it. Gifts and rights. You know, I think the basis of the game was basically you select from the wolves themselves that I've shown, a pack up to a certain point value, which is called renown, or sort of their fame, and build a combat deck and a sort of everything else deck with, you know, buffs. The combat deck has basically the cards you use to fight with and maybe some combat tricks. And then the werewolves themselves all come from different backgrounds, different clans that line up with different ideologies or geographical origins. But generally speaking, it's called Werewolf the Apocalypse because they all believed in this kind of the end of the world was coming about, being brought about by the vampires and all the evil corrupting influences in the world. Look at this. Bad corporations like Pentex. Man, that's awesome. Just straight out of a comic book. I wish more of the card games kind of leaned in on comic book style art sometimes. Not just the pure fantasy. Half Moon, signed by Jeff Miracola. Look at this. Guys. You know, what sets these old games apart from this first generation from the early 90s is just the commitment to theme. I'm not the first one to notice it or comment on it, but, and listen, I'm not saying all games these days sacrifice it, but I think there's if anything, you know, we've sacrificed it somewhat because game design itself has gotten better. So a lot of these old games are probably easier to break and wonky in a lot of strange ways, or the information isn't really properly being displayed on cards in a way that makes it easy for gameplay. But at the same time, you know, from the borders to the fonts, you know, the backgrounds, which I haven't shown, there's two different types, Sept and Combat, like I said, 2 decks. These games went all in to capture the universes that they were trying to sell you on. Look at this, Black Spiral Dancer. Disarm. Was this by Alex Shaman? Yeah. Solid blow. That's beautiful. And this is Richard Kane Ferguson. He drew Magic cards for a while. I think me and all my friends always were big fans of Richard Kane Ferguson. Don't know why he disappeared from the Magic card scene. I think it's one of those things where, like I said, a lot of the art over there has been homogenized to match certain style. And I mean, his work is, look, I mean, you would never expect to see this on modern Magic cards. This sort of, I'm not very artistically, technically proficient. I don't really know how to call things other than to say I know that Magic cards don't often look like that, and they don't often look like this either. These, like, I call it a comic book style where the lines are so crisp and clear like this. This you might see on the Magic cards. This is pretty though. Something like this you might see on the Magic card, but cool. All right, guys. Between the rambling and admiring the art, I don't want to take up too long here. Maybe I'll break this into a couple videos. I'll show this to my buddy who's more well versed in this universe. Nice. I'll see if I can figure out the true order of rares and uncommons. I think we already hit this guy, right? Yeah. There's some really interesting clans. Like, there's a clan called the Bone Gnawers, and basically the homeless people of the world, the sort of people on the fringe of society, human society, often would be bone gnawers. So they're actually werewolves, and it's just not really well adapted to the modern world. Not really with it. So they live as they do. Okay, we're starting to get repeats. Distractions. Fantastic. Jeff Holtz. Bum Rush. Another good old Richard Kane Ferguson. This game also, I'm led to believe, from what I've seen in the handful of other YouTube videos out there, may have been the first to have hollow foil cards at a rarity of about 1 per box. So we may see, I've never seen this guy before. We may see them. Now, I mentioned earlier that the vampire game is still alive and kicking, and that's, you know, indicative just of the passion of both the quality of the game, but also the passion of the fan base of World of Darkness, that those folks kept that game going. This game also survived. Wow. Inbred Disorder. Survived past sort of the end of its publishing lifetime, and I understand is one of the more active dead CCGs on the Dead CCG forum, so you can find more people to trade for it, or sell you product. I don't know how much is played. I know there's some way to play it online. I'm just not into that, playing the card games online. In this case, I know that my buddy who sent a box to Rudy, the box that I mentioned earlier that Rudy opened on air, he'll be able to play with me. He would love to play with me. So we'll get some games in of this. Nice. Dry Gulch. And hey, who knows? Maybe if I get any good at this streaming business, we'll share that game with you guys. There is some stuff on YouTube for Rage. Not a whole, not a shit ton, but there is some. Cool. I know Rudy hit this guy, and the guys in the comments thought it was pretty good. Love that art. The Silver Fangs are kind of the aristocrats, I understand, of the werewolf world. That's one of the clans. Critical blow, look at that. Oof. Tribal war. Man, I hope the camera is capturing it. All these images are just fantastic. Exorcism. That's probably that word's probably not even allowed anymore in card games. You know, you can ban a card now because it's called Crusade. This is the world we live in now, guys. Mother's Touch. Wolf Kinfolk. Bane Arrow. Very cool. Oh, this is a glancing blow. That's no glancing blow I'd like to take. Holy cow. Alright guys, pushing on 15 minutes. I'm going to open another one here, and then we'll do a part 2. I'll leave this up for a few days before going that way. So maybe in the comments people can tell me if there's anything I should point out or anything that I'm omitting from the history of the game and why it's such an interesting sort of pickup from the CCG graveyard. Banana Split, great name, great art. She's one of these bone gnawers I was talking about, and she must just be stuck in this this form, huh? Charging Bull, very sweet. Richard Kane Ferguson. Taking the death blow. Somehow this death blow, it seems a lot. It seems something I'd much rather take than this glancing blow, which is ripping the guy's guts out. Or am I misinterpreting it? Did he deliver the glancing blow to the other guy, and this is the small streak of blood from the glancing blow? Crazy. Mr. Richard Kane Ferguson. Wow. Gift. Shapeshift. Can you see the glossiness of these cards? How well done they are? Jackal's Curse. Again, I don't know how well that bodes for shuffling and gameplay. Right? You can feel the friction of the cards against each other because of that finish, the glossy finish. But in terms of an item that you can collect and put in a binder or just flip through for appreciation, looks great. No escape. No, that dude's fucked. And block. Alright guys, so that's part 1 of the break. I'll pause here and get some thoughts.